Everybody is addicted to something. Some people are addicted to drugs, some people alcohol, some people chasing girls, everyone to things worse and to things better than that. But everyone is addicted to something. And the good thing about that is we have the power to choose that which we are addicted to. And today, I want to urge the point that we should be addicted to discipline, and that is the thing that will set us free. That is the thing that will make this life worth living, that will give us true freedom. And I think once we can finally learn to, as Seneca says, take pleasure from scorning pleasure, I think life becomes a lot more fruitful and becomes a lot better. I think it's obvious how much and clear to see how much time each and every one of us waste in trivial pursuits, obtaining pleasure strictly for pleasure's sake. And in doing this, we don't just we don't just choose to do things that do not bear fruit. We choose to do things that spoil the fruit that otherwise would be born. And that may be worse than the former. We can spend so long in a pursuit, so long dedicating ourselves to something, hours, and we can ruin it in just a matter of minutes in a horrible pursuit. You know, there's things that ruin your memory. There's things that only take a couple minutes to do, but you pay for it for many more minutes. And it's just clear that these things have negative effects. And they don't just not bear fruit, but they take away from the fruit that otherwise would be born. And discipline, to become addicted to discipline, can allow you to look back with more fulfillment on how you spent your time and what you did and what you learned. If we all didn't waste so much time in trivial pursuits like scrolling on Instagram or, talking to people, or just having trivial conversations that just don't need to be had, think about how much more we could have learned. Think about maybe the instruments we could have learned, the books we could have read, the reflections we could have had, the lessons we could have learned, the weight we could have lost, the muscle we could have built, the people we could have helped. So many things could be done in place of these things that are solely for pleasure. And discipline. Discipline is what we need to combat this. And to become addicted to discipline is to become addicted to becoming the best version of yourself and to helping the most people. I think that's something that gets overlooked often. In service to becoming the best version of yourself is also in service to helping the most people. Why would you not want to do that? So many things waste and eat our time and are only in service to some fleeting moment of pleasure that is gone the second it arises. And if we can just replace these moments with discipline and go after the things we know we should be going after, embarking on the things we know we should be embarking in, doing the things that we don't feel like doing, but we know we should do. And after the fact, we're so glad that we did. I've spoken on discipline on this channel before, and I recently, I guess not recently, but I probably my most recent video on discipline was talking about how I don't think a lot of us, me included, um, have as much discipline as we think. Because discipline, in my opinion, is only when you do something that you do not want to do. Discipline is not when you feel super motivated, inspired to go do that thing that most people don't want to do. That is not discipline. Discipline is when you say, I this is like one of the last things I want to do right now. But I do know that after the fact I'll be glad I did, and I do know I should do it. Maybe I don't want to, but I need to. And then that's where discipline is. And I think a lot of people can get mistaken thinking that they're disciplined when really all that they are and all that they do is just things that they like. And they just happen to like things that the crowd deems as pursuits of discipline. You know, you can be addicted to going to the gym, and a day can come where you to build more muscle, you know, your goal is to build more muscle, and to build more muscle you need to take a rest day, but you can't. You know, you're addicted to the gym. That's not discipline. That's an addiction. That's a problem. But there's pursuits in society nowadays where, well, and always, I say nowadays, but really nothing's ever changed. And these things look like discipline, but to these people, it would take more discipline not to do it. And I think it's just valuable to understand that you may not be as disciplined as you think you are, and that you may still have far to go. And the fact that you may not feel super great about your life, even though you're disciplined, doesn't mean that you need to get rid of your discipline, because you're probably not as disciplined as you thought. Because the life of discipline is a life of joy, fulfillment, happiness, peace, tranquility. It is a life of internal bliss, knowing that you work hard at things you deem worthy of hard work. And, you know, for a long time, I read a lot of books and I wrote a lot, and I spent hours sitting down thinking I was being very disciplined. But now that I'm no longer at that place in time and in that position where I'm able to read and write in that place, I find that my discipline is not as good as I thought. I find that in that place, it felt more right, and it felt like the thing that I had to do. And I had no other choice. I couldn't go make food. I couldn't go for a walk. I couldn't go enjoy the sun. I couldn't do this. I couldn't do that. So I was in a position where I was like, well, this is all I got. Now I'm no longer in that position. And I see how much harder these things are that I thought I had so much discipline with, and how much less I'm able to do them because I lack the discipline. And I've been told I'm very disciplined, and at times I disagree. But I do believe I and each and every one of us have the capacity to be very disciplined. And we have to learn to become addicted to discipline, because if we don't choose, something will. Someone will, and it probably won't be that good. But if we can become addicted with discipline, the process, the journey, the pursuit, if we can learn how to derive pleasure from scorning pleasure, then I think we'll be worthy of whatever made us. And we will start becoming more of a god than a man. And in my opinion, how I like to view pursuits, life, growth is not am I, I like to think, here's human, here's man, here's God, here's beast. Am I becoming more of a god or am I becoming more of a beast? And we can never become either. That is not what I'm trying to say. But there's actions that deep down in us we know that are divine and godly actions. And there are other actions that we know are beastly and animal-esque actions. If you are a servant to your stomach, that's an animal, that's a beastly pursuit. If you are a servant to virtue, what is that other than divine? And I think each and every one of us should strive to be more like gods than beast. And for that matter, more like God than men. For Epictetus, one of my favorite quotes ever is, he says, "Show me a stoic, and I'll show you a man trying to be more of a god than a man." And to me, that's beautiful. And that's what we should all be striving for. We should strive for that with the knowledge that we will never obtain it. And those are the best things to strive for. The best things to strive for are the things with no finish lines. Because the finish line is a mirage anyways. There is no finish line. And when you can make a goal without one, it saves you from the false hope that one day you'll reach one. The journey, even though it's the most trite thing, is all that matters. The destination is death. And there's nothing wrong with that. But that is the destination. And if you don't enjoy the journey, you simply don't enjoy life. But that's beside the point. Obviously, the sole purpose of this video was to urge you to become addicted to discipline. Become addicted to the things that better you, not the things that diminish you. Ask yourself, as James Hollis says, is this decision enlarging me or diminishing me? This is a very hard question to ask oneself, because when you really want to do something and you realize it's diminishing you, it's really hard to say no. But it's a question solely in service to growth and betterment and helping society and oneself. And it's a great question to ask. And if you can become addicted to discipline, if you can take your pleasure from virtue and scorning pleasure, that question will be a great friend on a great journey to excellence. So become addicted to discipline, because if not that, it will be something else.